I started cartooning in Montreal in 1967, and very shortly after that, wonderful things began to happen to provide me with a lot of rich material in terms of political cartoons. Within several months of me starting cartooning, the Parti Quebecois was formed in 1968. Gilles Grégoire, a sort of an odd character, a creditist and separatist, formed with Rene Levesque's political group, the Parti Quebecois. And in this first cartoon, they have sort of a nest, hopefully with young chicks that we're going to feed and bring them along and that sort of thing. And they did. Over the next 7, 8, 9 years, slowly but surely, they began to evolve in popularity here in Quebec. Robert Bourassa, of course, was the very popular and strong premier of Quebec at the time, dealing with a lot of issues. And through 2 elections, the support of the Parti Quebecois grew significantly each time. Another popular cartoon of Rene Levesque using Robert Bourassa's nose as a ski jump. In 1976, they were elected with a smashing majority, scaring the hell out of the rest of Canada and getting world attention. I mean, suddenly here in quiet, old, docile Canada was an interesting political story of the possibility of Quebec separating from the rest of the country. I tripled my income in 1976, the only Anglo to do so, because everybody in the world wanted cartoons on the Parti Quebecois in Quebec. In any case, I drew this cartoon of Everybody Take a Valium, still probably my most popular cartoon, Levesque pointing out. And indeed, it became sort of part of the political language here in Canada, that if you're, if you want people to settle down, you say to them, okay, everybody take a Valium. For the next 4 years, in fact, Levesque kept kind of urging that, despite people being startled, and in fact, scared people started to move out of Quebec, and money began to move out of Quebec in terms of companies moving and that sort of thing. So in another cartoon of the time, he sang dramatically, in the spirit of Valium, he's saying, "We can't afford to lose our heads." But meanwhile, his pants are down around his ankles. So that cartoon won a National Newspaper Award for myself and the Gazette. He had no choice. He had to call a referendum, which he did in 1980. And it was quite dramatic at the time. This was unknown territory. We didn't know anything about this sort of thing happening in Canada. And a lot of political activity took place at the time. And in the background, one of the strongest people, of course, was Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau. And with a lot of backroom maneuvering, the no side won quite handily. Again, another cartoon that appeared on the front page of the Gazette. Trudeau is asking Levesque, did the earth move? The Parti Quebecois actually was a very progressive government, and if you ignored the business of separating from Canada, they were really a good, responsible government that changed a lot of the rules. Nevertheless, after the referendum, the spirit seemed to go out of the party, and certainly out of Levesque. I had met Levesque a number of times. Here's a nice photograph of me with him at a National Newspaper Award ceremony in Toronto, where he gave me the check. Well, actually, he didn't give me the check. He gave me the plaque, and then he put the check in his pocket and then sat down. Quite the joker. So we got along well. Again, at that same event, he, as a joke, because of the Valium cartoon, I said, "Monsieur Levesque, j'ai un cadeau," and I gave him a 10 milligram Valium. And what do you know? He drank it with his scotch, and his speech died halfway through. I take full credit for that. What I'm saying is that being a former journalist, he got it. He understood when stuff was funny and necessary and that sort of thing. But when he began to lose it, I was really drawing a lot of critical cartoons of him in the 80s, leading up to one classic one where Boy George, a very popular rock and roll figure at the time, was coming to Montreal. But the popularity of the PQ was way down, so I drew this cartoon of Rene Levesque dressed as Boy George saying, you know, we have to increase our popularity, the Jeux Vigneault look is dead. Well, he was touring an auto plant up in St. Therese, and they had stuck this cartoon up all over the place, all over the plant. And he got real angry and tore one off. This made international headlines. He tore one off the wall and teared it up and gave it to an aide and that sort of thing. So the sense of humor was gone, and I think the spirit was gone also for Rene Levesque. Also, the party itself was very tired. The referendum had really done them in. And so I guess my finale cartoon on Rene Levesque was of him being forced to walk at the plank from the PQ party. Of course, the PQ party was already underwater itself.